especially at the stage at which you are, and also for market force that have gone ahead and acquired another company. So I think that's one thing that you all have in common. Could you just walk us through that? What was the idea behind that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for us at the time, it wasn't really something that we were thinking about. We were not really thinking about expansion through acquisition. But because we were very early stage at the time, just raised our seed round. But then the opportunity presented itself to us, and then we actually realized that there was so much to gain in terms of access to new markets, in terms of knowledge as well. The company that we acquired focused predominantly on microinsurance, for example, an area that we did not really focus on at Lami, really getting that deep understanding beforehand. Even when it comes to the regulation, how people, what's important to people, for example, in that market. I think the basis of the product can be the same. Like for us, ultimately, it's still the same platform, the same API that we distribute. However, the way we distribute the products or the kinds of products that are being distributed in those markets could be different. So just making sure that you're able to, get down to the bottom of that, test as quickly as possible, and understand what the needs are in detail. I think that really makes the difference when going into these new markets as well.
All right, thank you so much.
So in my own experiences with scaling a company, I really come from, being an operator, helping co-founder Della, helping co-founder lead in the earliest days throughout the way. And very quickly, we learned that the winning formula for building a venture in Africa was to recognize what many development people would call blasphemy, which is that Africa is actually a country. And I think the more I travel across the continent, I went to Uganda for the first time last weekend, the more of that to come to each market and develop a new set of partnerships across each market. So this is very, very important for founders to understand. Right, that your scaling is as a response to your ability to get the highest quality customers. And for you to be able to do that, there are just $440 billion companies across the continent. And maybe a couple hundred more around the world that are interested in doing business on the continent. So for you to get your hands in that pie, you've got to be everywhere at the same time. The second is investors, right? Investors consider, the one word that investors use to identify investing in Africa is actually risk. I mean, this is a study we've done, right? And single country risk in particular is something that gives them the English juice, right? And so what investors try to do is to spread that country risk, right?
By raising our seed raise, it was very interesting to talk to investors across the continent because, as you guys know, if you're going to raise capital, the investors are everywhere. And just talking to investors and them telling us, we got a lot of validation from them that Nigeria, for example, is a market where the problem we're trying to solve in Kenya exists in Nigeria. So that gave us a lot of encouragement, and we decided to visit the market and see whether it is the case. So we went there, talked to prospective customers, looked at how the supply chain was working in Nigeria, and as he said, a lot of the problems on the continent are shared, and that means potentially a lot of the solutions are shared. So that's how we figured it out, and before we go to any market, we do the same thing. So we went to Uganda, we went to Tanzania, we went to Rwanda, all these markets before expanding. But to answer the question, product market fit is what led us there.
Accessible and usable by very, very many customers, as many as your market, potential market share can take. And for us, in principle, it's about a team, building the right team, because people build the right product and they build the right processes that can scale. So for us, that's always a starting point as you go even into new markets. And if you think about inorganic growth where you acquire as well, that's one of the big things we look at. Are we able to add people into the team who are able to create products that have more use cases for merchants? We're able to create new ways of marketing or distributing this product. So all that innovation that comes beyond the founders is as good as your team is. And then they also build. So for example, my co-founder and I were both tech background, but we've had to build a lot of capacity to enable us to scale. And all that capacity has been around identifying the right talent that has either experienced this stuff before or is willing to work with us to build a system that can scale.
Something that works well in one market can actually work very well in another market. And so we're one of the few, there's an ideological argument around should you go deep in one country or should you scale quickly to multiple different countries? And we're adherents of scaling.
Hi, I'm Sharon Kinyanjui. I'm the Regional Director for World Remit for Europe, Middle East and Africa. I came to today's event. It was amazing. Some excellent founders, some excellent venture capitalists and accelerators, and just generally a great crowd.
What do you look forward to in the future?
I look forward to future engagements and hearing more. It's been super interesting. I learned a lot. Gosh, there were so many gems. I don't even know where to start, but I think the best thing that it showed me was the ecosystem and how everybody's kind of just gelling together and supporting each other to grow. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and yeah, it was great meeting Jihan, and Tesh amongst everybody else.
My name is Jihan from Green Sources Africa. We are a supply chain and logistics company providing online marketplace presence for manufacturers, distributors, and manufacturing companies in Kenya and across Africa. So today's event that was themed scaling an African startup. It was very, very interesting. The panel was very engaging. The information was very direct and important and informative. I was also able to network with a few of them, as well as my counterparts who were sitting next to each other. We were able to introduce ourselves and network, and it has been very helpful. Such events, I think, should be done more often, because clearly by even noticing the participants who came, the guests who are present, it is something that is very beneficial. And looking at the Africa that we want to venture into and making it a place where we have one voice and one country and a market that has everything and is self-sufficient, with investors always looking to expand their net worth through companies that are succeeding in Africa. This is a very, very good point of looking at it, and I'm very excited personally. Green Sources Africa is very excited to be part of this journey and part of these events that are to increase business and scale growth, which is everyone's important point in companies.
Hi, my name is Moses Kihumba, CEO and founder at Kahoot. We provide car care services end-to-end, so we provide access to car maintenance, car recovery services, car imports, spare parts. We basically take care of cars so that you can get more out of life. Today's event was amazing. I learned a lot about scaling businesses, and I think that is one of the things that is very critical as a founder. I was an entrepreneur in Africa, learning how to approach new markets and just the sort of things to watch out for. And so on. So I think, and also interacting with investors, other entrepreneurs, has been an amazing experience for me.
Hi, my name is Kirimate. I work with a startup in Kenya called Amitra. What I learned about here is from seasonal entrepreneurs like Jihan and Tesh. It's a lot of the learning curve was the takeaway from the whole session.
My name is Peter Kisaga, and I work for Fiji Africa in research, investment, and portfolio support.
Okay, what stood out the most for you in this event?
I mean, that's a bit of an awkward question, given that I was the host, but the most important thing that I noticed was people came, they sat down and paid attention. It's very rare that you have a 1 hour event and people are not walking out on you or they're not talking in the background. So it was very, very amazing. And then I think the other thing that I would say is the questions that were asked. Typically what you see is most people look at venture capital as a mystery. They have no idea what happens under the hood. And here we were having a very candid conversation about the asset class. The founders, that's Tesh and Jihan, they were answering questions about their companies and their journeys in a very honest way, straightforward, no bullshit. And then also Iyinoluwa, who is our general partner at Future Africa, he was also giving things that you would rarely find someone in his position talk about in a very frank way. One of my favorite was, being able to admit that we can add value, but we can learn together. In an industry where people want to, position themselves as experts. So for me, that's that. But overall, the audience was very amazing. The questions that came out of them, really, really amazing. And I would like to thank everyone that made it today. Next time, you should return definitely again and again. Thank you so much.